Joining us right now is Mr. Kapil Sibal, Senior Congress Leader, as well as a very eminent legal voice. Mr. Sibal, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV. I want to first know your opinion on the decision that has been taken to nominate the ex-Chief Justice of India, Justice Ranjan Gogoi, to the Rajya Sabha.
See, I think that what I will probably express in my own words should really reflect the opinion by and large of the bar in this country and also of people. Just 4 months after his retirement, with the kind of controversies that were surrounding while he was the Chief Justice, I think it has raised really serious doubts in the minds of the people about his presiding over that court and his receiving this nomination. But what it has done, we don't have to go into the details of it, but what it has done, it has shaken up the confidence of the people in the system. It's not only harmed him personally, but I think it's also harmed the institution in a very big way. Because people have started asking questions, was there a quid pro quo in any of this? It may be true, may not be true, but the perception is really points to that direction.
I would like to read out a few quotes, one by the ex-CJI himself, and one an interview that we've done of Justice A.P. Shah, and then I would like to take your response. So on the 27th of March 2019, I'm quoting a news agency called the Press Trust of India, a 5-judge bench headed by Justice Ranjan Gogoi said that there is a viewpoint that post-retirement appointment is itself a scar on judicial independence of the judiciary, unquote. Do you think he's gone against his own decision?
We are quite used to it, actually. We're quite used to people in high places saying one thing today and doing the opposite tomorrow. We call it in Hindi, kathni aur karne mein antar hota hai. I'm not surprised at that, because he's the one who talked about, his concerns, his colleagues' concerns about the Loya case. And you know what happened. So I'm really not surprised. Actually, over the years, those occupying high places, especially those who have been masters of the roster, have not, have exposed themselves in various ways. And actually the machinations of the court worry us a great deal. And I'll tell you why. I request you, go across to the bar in the Supreme Court or to the Delhi High Court or generally to the colleagues, my colleagues throughout the country. You will find grave doubts about the manner in which matters are being conducted. And that worries me. And if you talk to the lay people, an institution which was never, the integrity of which is never in doubt, is somehow now a very suspicious institution in the eyes of the public.
But Mr. Sibal, this entire matter has been in debate since last night when this announcement was made public. And a lot of the commentators on the other side of the divide draw the attention to the case of a former Chief Justice, Justice Ranganath Mishra. He was also a member of Parliament. In fact, the allegation is that he was the sole member of the Mishra Commission of Inquiry into the 1984 anti-Sikh riots, which was deemed biased by a former general officer commanding-in-chief of the Indian Army.
I think what are we discussing here? We're discussing Ranjan Gogoi, or are we discussing what happened in the past? This is exactly the kind of debate that takes place which leads us nowhere. Right? If you talk about the Delhi riots or you talk about Gujarat, they say what happened in 1984. Does that justify what happened today? It doesn't. So I think that we're asking the wrong question. Having said that, Ranganath Mishra, having said that, Ranganath Mishra was appointed 7 years after he demitted office. This has happened 4 months after he
So
has
are you saying there should be a cooling off period?
No. There should be no such. There should be no such appointments made, no such acceptance or no such offers made. If somebody has done something in the past, that doesn't mean it must be repeated in the future.
Correct. But
if something is wrong in the...
Would you agree that the appointment or elevation of...
whether I agree or not, it makes no difference. I'm asking the question, is this appointment or this offer made an acceptance, is it consistent with the independence of the judiciary? Or does it not lead to the perception that there is something really amiss?
So do you think that maybe going forward, should this be just left as a matter of propriety, or should there be a sort of a legal framework refusing people to take up these assignments?
No, I think that the retiring judges, retiring chief justices, they're required to be a cooling off period. There should be a cooling off period, maybe by law.
So you're saying by law there should be a cooling off period so that there is no immediate allegation of a quid pro quo.
But I tell you the problem that arises there. The problem is that in many of these legislations, they require appointment of a retired judge of the Supreme Court, retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Many of these legislations in respect of public appointments require that. And so if there's a cooling off period, right, then you may not find an appropriate appointee, which will fit into the statutory requirement. So I think that a little thought has to be given to it as to how to move forward. But I think a cooling period is definitely required.
A couple of quick questions before we let you go, Mr. Sibal. Justice Gogoi himself has spoken out and said that I will explain the circumstances in which I have accepted this decision. So it's very clear that he has accepted. There was acceptance.
Well, you know,
before this offer.
Justice Gogoi has put himself in a very piquant situation. Now he's one of us.
Okay.
Okay.
What does that mean?
He's no longer my lord.
Okay.
And I think
he can be questioned.
that's a great thing for us because, you know, at a level playing field, we can tell him what we think.
Okay. Okay. Justice A.P. Shah has said in an interview to NDTV, he says it was the BJP, mainly Arun Jaitley, who spoke about bringing a law prohibiting judges from accepting post-retirement assignments.
Yes, I remember that. Well, you know, as I said, that many people tend to say something and just do the opposite when it really comes to implementing what they have said.
Let me ask you a political question. What could have been the motivation here? What would you allege? Why has this happened?
I think my silence will be the answer.
Do you suggest that this is some sort of a quid pro quo?
I do not wish to say anything more than what I have said.
What sort of impact is it going to have? Because if you speak to people or leaders from the Bharatiya Janata Party, there is a very simple question that they ask. What is wrong in what is being done?
Absolutely.
What is wrong? Legally, what is wrong?
No. Nothing is legally wrong. You can promote people who have been prosecuted for murder. You can promote them in the hierarchy as has been done in Gujarat. Nothing legally wrong. You can transfer a judge if he requires the presence of somebody. Transfer him overnight. Nothing legally wrong. You can give give positions to people who say 2G loss caused the loss of like 1,76,000 crores. Nothing legally wrong. You see, legality is not an answer to everything. There is something called morality. Very few political establishments follow that principle.
How much will the Congress party be questioning this?
I think that I'm not here to answer that question. I think that Congress party will take a position and do what it has to do.
Mr. Sibal, there was a notification which said that this nomination is going to take place to the upper house. A lot is being said about, it is being put to question the decisions that were taken or the benches in which the Chief Justice
I've been saying
was
this,
seated. Like Raphael, Sabrimala, Ram Temple.
I've been saying this for a long time. I think the power with the master of the roster, namely the Chief Justice of the High Courts and of the Supreme Court of India, that power is not exercised in a non-discriminatory fashion. And remember, this is an administrative power. This is not a judicial power. And nobody can question it. Nobody can challenge it. And administratively, judges say that, of course, the Chief Justice of India is entitled to decide which case goes where. But that's what creates the problem, because we find that some extremely sensitive cases, go to particular judges, and some cases are then transferred overnight. Then benches are formed in a particular fashion. We know our judges very well, and then when that happens, then questions are raised. And when questions are raised, it's a negative signal, in a sense. You see, this is one institution that should be completely above board. Politics is politics. There'll be people who will challenge decisions. You have the judiciary, where that decision will be challenged. You have, in Parliament, if the executive takes a decision, you have a forum where it can be publicly challenged, right? If it's a legislative enactment, we'll challenge the constitutional validity of it in court. But when there is a decision by the master of the roster, it can never be challenged. Actually, that's one decision under the Constitution that can never be challenged in any forum.
But Mr. Sibal, again...
Now, in other jurisdictions, for example, in the Supreme Court of United States, there is no problem. Why? Because the court sits as a whole. There are no benches, right? So which bench the matter goes to then raises questions. And that's not good for the institution. So I think there should be a mechanism. Now the judge, the master of the roster, what it does is he says, all right, all judges in the court will hear criminal cases. That's not the answer to the problem, right? Because then you go to any judge, right? So I think they have to find a solution within, so that there is no element of suspicion.
But Mr. Sibal, again, I'll have to ask this political question, because you ask this of the BJP and they will immediately shift attention or turn the focus to certain decisions taken when Congress governments were in power or when the Congress was at the helm. You have the case of the Election Commission, which is also a subject matter of great scrutiny as to how election commissioners should be elevated into a political position, has been done by the Congress. Previously, in the case of the Chief Justice of India, Ranganath Mishra, has been done by the Congress. So there is precedence that we have seen.
I think you're missing the point. We're missing the point. Say no government is perfect. Governments have made mistakes in the past. That's not a precedent to make a mistake in the future.
In the future, okay.
I mean, that's hardly a precedent to cite, to say, look, something happened in the past, and therefore I will also do it in the present.
So you admit in the past this was a mistake?
There will be questions raised. Why not? Right? After all, take for example now in the present election commissioners, what's happened here? What's happened to Mr. Lavasa? Right? Proceedings have been started against him because he, expressed some opinions. Now people will say, no, but if there is something wrong that, he has done, why should he not be proceeded against? But the fact of the matter is, the public perception is that if you say anything against the government, right, then you will have to answer. And see what's happened in the case of a judge of the High Court. Right? You need not have passed an order of transfer at 11 o'clock at night. But then the argument is, after all, on the 12th of February, he had accepted the transfer, his own transfer. So what's wrong with it? But he was hearing a case. The date was not fixed on the 12th of February. Right? On that particular day, when the matter was adjourned the next day, at 11 o'clock. So what message is it to the judiciary? If you do something which is inconsistent, yes, conform, right? Now you will say, but that has happened in the past, but that's no argument, right? Maybe something has happened in the past which shouldn't have happened. Doesn't mean that we must repeat it because it has happened in the past. That's not a precedent.
No, so I'm assuming from what you're saying that your allegation is that for the judiciary, it's a message from the government, either conform, and if you do not conform, then strict action will be taken against. And if you conform, you'll be rewarded.
That's the perception of the bar. That's the perception of the people of India. You ask anybody. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And I think this is the last bastion as far as the people are concerned, because beyond this, there's only God.
Bhagwan, as you like to say. Okay. Now, the point that I was trying, I'm going to attempt one more time. The point about quid pro quo is being questioned, is being spoken about a lot by the Congress. I have with me, this is a notification of the Ministry of Development of Northeastern Region on the 24th of January, where it says, the President hereby nominates Air Marshal Anjan Kumar Gogoi as a member of the Northeastern Council. Do you think that whether it was the nomination of Chief Justice's relatives or his own nomination or his own elevation had anything to do with this reward, being rewarded?
See, it's difficult. It's difficult. See, ultimately, it's all public perception. Institutions, the integrity of institutions depends on the confidence of the public in those
institutions. Should we not wait for Chief Justice Gogoi to explain the circumstances?
It doesn't matter. What he says doesn't really matter. Within 4 months of his demitting office, this should never have been done, no matter what his explanation is. Remember, that's what's really important. If the confidence of the public in an institution diminishes exponentially in this fashion, you're going to have a system by which nobody believes anybody. And that's the terrible thing for democracy.
Okay. And I'd like
I mean, it's happened to the media, not necessarily your channel. People have stopped watching television. That's the reality. Right? So people are now moving on to the social media, which is in fact as dangerous a platform. Because in the social media, there are those mischievous players.
Correct.
Who actually can do much worse. So where do you go?
So at the end, I would like to reiterate again that you feel, Mr. Kapil Sibal feels that there should be a law where there should be a mandatory cooling off period for people in eminent positions like the Chief Justices.
No,
so that
even retired judges of the Supreme Court. Many of them don't. Many Chief Justices have not taken any public positions. I can think Chief Justice Bharucha, for example. He's in Bombay doing arbitration. There are many others who have not taken any. The two judges, Justice Chalmeshwar, Kurian Joseph, they have not taken any public positions. There are lots of people who don't.
Okay. All right. Mr. Sibal, many thanks for speaking to NDTV.